Boom. Do I need to put the headphones on, or are you good?
Well, I mean, how do you feel about wearing the headphones?
I'm cool with whatever, dude. You're the one that has to make sure the audio is okay.
Are the headphones over there?
They are. They're right here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah. Go ahead and slip them on. See what you think. You don't have to wear them, but it's helpful because, like, lean into the mic real quick.
Okay.
So it helps you stay consistent on your audio. Like, I was thinking about not going with headphones when I first started. I have 3 pair here. I need to get a 4th pair and a 4th mic, but it helps me. So I got a little further away. I could still hear myself in my headphones.
Yeah.
But now it's way better. Right. So anyway.
Love doctor. What are you doing?
So we're live or recording because we're not technically live. We're uploading this after the fact, but we're gonna upload it the same day that we did it. So, but I'm podcasting in the studio with Josh McMillian. We could say a lot of things, McMillian, because you're a man of many hats. I will just give you a brief intro and we'll just talk about normal stuff like we always do. So you are, so I first knew you as a judo guy, right? So you're 4th degree judo black belt, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Martial arts, 20 years. You did fencing. Excuse me. So yeah, outside of that, also 20 years law enforcement.
Yeah, 16 years law enforcement right now.
Okay, and then you didn't you work? And so one of your jobs, you work with you interface with the community. You were almost like the little bit of PR or mouthpiece.
Public information officer for the city police department. Yeah,
I'm glad that police departments have that guy. That guy's every guy I've dealt with. So I dealt with Drew Latch, and who's the guy right now? I keep forgetting his name.
So there's really not one right now because the guy that was Quinn Jones, he's now a sergeant. He got promoted.
Okay,
and so they're trying to fill that spot. It's my understanding, but they haven't filled it yet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they should get on that.
it's a needed position. Yeah.
Yeah. So remind me. Since we won't talk about any affiliations awesome. on the podcast, I did hear from a friend of ours, Mr. Butler, of local businesses that we know about. He was saying that we're really close to, the city and one of the local schools are really close to getting a deal done on a building, somewhere in between my gym and that school.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the city right now, man.
There sure is. Elections. There's a lot of stuff. So this is a runoff election.
Yeah.
Right. So I see you voted on your.
I did.
Yeah, good for you. Way to execute your civic
I take my
duty.
daughter with me to vote.
So
she gets involved. She's 7, man.
She's so cute.
I think it's critical, man, to get your kids involved in all that democratic process at early age, so that later it becomes one of those where it's like, hey, I've got to do this. Because right now, man, no one really votes anymore. We've got an area, and if they'll get 3,800 people out to vote in this election, it's such a small percentage of who actually is registered to vote in that election. It's the Senate District 16 seat, and man, there's.
Well, I mean, just our town alone is a small town. But it's still like 30,000 people.
Yeah, so I think the census was like 27.5 around there,
and that was how many years ago? And that's just city limits. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's not That's not our county.
Our county is around 59 to 60,000 people.
See, yeah.
And so half the county lives in Russellville, where we're at, and so just that alone. 3,800 people. Now we're talking about our county, Newton County. I don't want to mess this up, but there's another 3 or 4 counties in that district too. And so just that alone, you're talking about 100,000 plus people, a populace, and only 3,800 people coming out to vote, or 5,000 people coming out to vote. Let's say 5,000. That's such a small percentage of the voters. And then if people want to complain later, like, hey, I don't like this person in that job. Well, did you vote? Because that's what you're supposed to do to make sure the right person gets the job. Just political civic mindedness.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
For people listening that don't know geographically where we're talking about, Google Willie Nelson, Newton County. All right. You mentioned Newton County, and
Yeah.
that's I would say that's what Newton County's famous for is Willie Nelson's comments on Newton County.
Yeah.
I saw Willie Nelson when I was a kid. He came through my town just down the road, Clarksville, and we were like in the drive-through at a restaurant, and like he was just chilling over there at the hotel with his braids, looking hippies, all get out. So yeah, so what got you into law enforcement?
Man, it's kind of funny is I ended up in this area because I had an acquaintance, and basically I came and did construction work for him when I moved up here, and then when that kind of got done,
Single guy at the time?
no, he was married. With
No,
his wife.
you.
Oh, I was single. Yeah,
You can do whatever you want.
whatever I want, man. I was needing a break from where I was, and opportunity came up, and then it's kind of one of those things like life just kind of puts you in different places, kind of odd, and so when I got done with that job, it's like, hey, I need to figure out what else I want to do. And someone's like, hey, you do martial arts or have for this ever long, you should be a cop. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like I had never had any aspirations to be a cop or be a police officer at all. And so I was doing construction work on the side, making a pretty good living, and then ended up getting hurt, and turned out you need insurance because medical bills are pretty high.
Dude, you know what else is high is health insurance cost. Jesus H, man. My health insurance costs have gone up 300% since I did all this in the last year and a half. I got married, and it was all in 1 year that it went up that much, but we got and it just went up again. So we got married, and then I turned 30, and Cora turned 25. And we got on the same plan together. So now next year we're going to have to not be on the same plan together.
Yeah.
We're going to have to I might be able to swap some of my insurance through the university. So also I was talking to MacArthur about one of our good friends is retiring from the local university, Dr. DeBlack.
Oh, yeah.
Author of the textbook on Arkansas history.
Yeah.
And I may be able to segue into teaching a class at Tech on Arkansas history. I don't know. It's I'm interested. I'm probably going to teach the lower level class at Morrilton.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to law enforcement. You moved here.
Basically moved here, needed a job. Someone said be a police officer, and I got hired by the city of Dardanelle at the time. We had 10 officers and went to the academy and became a police officer. And then I was there about 2.5 years, and then swapped over to the city of Russellville, which is where we live. And I was there about 10 years, and or 8 or 9, I forget. Got served on the SWAT team, a lot of kind of cool opportunities there, a lot of training opportunities, and spent part of the time as a PIO, worked on traffic team enforcement specific unit just to go out and help. The goal that the unit was to stop traffic accidents, right? Mm-hmm. Because your city reports traffic accidents to the state police. Anytime one occurs, you do report. And so when you report that, insurance companies actually base a lot of insurance premiums off of how many accidents you have in a city. So
Interesting.
So the thought process is if we went out and we wrote tickets for those for those infractions that cause accidents, because most accidents occur at intersections, right? So we target like red light, stop sign violations, things that would basically be intersection-related traffic offenses. And as we wrote a lot of tickets for that, we noticed our traffic accidents actually decreased. So we had less traffic accidents being reported to the state police, and so it was an effective unit when it was in service. And then just some manpower issues with the city and not having enough officers to cover shift, and so specialized units kind of went away as far as a traffic team.
I mean, why expand on such a program when you could just get rid of it?
There you go. It's also resource driven, right? So.
Did you guys get a grant to fund it the first time or something? Or
no, just had
just were open minded about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what leads to stuff like that going? Because I've heard of several things like that coming and going locally. Is it administration changes? I was just thinking yesterday about how things like chief of police and sheriffs and how the sort of local and county law enforcement administration comes and goes over time.
Sure. And it's, leadership's always important. And what you find out is like a department's always a reflection of the person in charge, right? So if you got somebody in charge that's community oriented, wants to see some programs in the city directed towards certain whatever they think's the most important issue at the time, then what you'll find out is that's what they're going to do. A good example is on Netflix, they got a show called Flint right now, and it's about Flint, Michigan. And that's where they had the water crisis. And they talk about that department. It's a 100,000 member city. And what happened is it's 100,000 people. They have 300 positions for their police department, but they only have 98 officers because of budget cuts and everybody moving out. They don't have the tax base to support that many officers working for the city, and how crime's risen dramatically through the roof, right? And so there was a police chief that was in there, and a new mayor got elected. And one of the first things she did is she got rid of him and put a new police chief into effect. And that old police chief, when you watch the special...
So see, that's real quick. So that's a thing. The mayor and the police chief, the mayor typically appoints the chief of police, correct?
It is an appointed position, yep. Yeah. So
I don't like that. I mean, I do. I like the kind of check and balance on it, but I think that it should be a separate... I like how there's an election for sheriff. Why can't there be an election for chief of police?
Well, historically, man, sheriff's only elected position in constables.
Yeah, I kind of, and I wish there were, I wish some different positions were mayoral. I don't know how to say it. Appointments by the mayor.
Well, and I think, the argument there, the real discussion is elected city council versus a city manager system, right, with the city. So a city manager is someone that goes to school, gets educated on how to run a city, budgetary issues, programs out there, goes through training, is specialized and trained in just how to manage a city or manage the resources of a city, right? So you've got someone that technically is qualified for the job. But then you can elect somebody in that, all they've ever done their whole life might be sit around and collect a pension or something, and they worked at a place for 32 years. They're retired now. I'm retired. I want to get involved in politics for the city, and then you elect somebody in that might not have the qualifications to do that position, so to speak. Right? There's no training. There's nothing in there for that person. So what you run into is with that argument or that type of situation, the same thing, right? Someone that's trained for that job, or do you just get someone that by popular vote that comes in? So like the appointment position, like if you appoint somebody, you hope that they appoint somebody that's qualified for the position, right? So if you're going to put a police chief into a position, let's say, you hope that person has a good track record, has a resume that reflects that level of responsibility, reflects the ability to lead people, and has something in their past or their resume when you look at it that says, hey, this person's qualified for this job. And then what's this person's focus, and what have they done to align that focus and accomplish those missions and tasks, right? Same thing with elections. You get in there, you might have two people being elected. You might have a guy in there that comes out, and right now it's interesting as we have this drain the swamp statement people are saying. And
our town is a literal swamp, and so are a lot of towns in Louisiana where you're from, and where Theo Vaughn, a super hilarious comedian, is also from.
Man, it's different. But like that drain the swamp thing, it's interesting. You can be someone running for office, and this is on the news the other day, so it might be fake. I have no idea, right? Fake news, right?
Yeah. Oh, but man, we're a twofer right there. Drain the swamp and fake news.
But they were saying that if a candidate comes out and says, "Hey, I'm here to drain the swamp," or "I'm against big government," or "I want little government limited," automatically they're picking up 35% of the vote.
Isn't it crazy how that comes in waves? I mean, we are in the sort of, I guess you could say, Mid-South, right?
Yeah.
Geographically speaking, isn't that a great way to characterize our state?
We are Mid-South boxing.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah, Mid-South Golden Gloves.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, we're in the Mid-South.
There you go.
Not quite the Midwest, the Mid-South. But is Oklahoma considered Midwest? There's Midwest City in Oklahoma.
I think it is considered the Midwest because it has the plains. It's by Kansas, right? It's close.
Yeah. I think it's the Midwest. So we're in the Mid-South, and so we didn't want to be a slave state. Just want to throw that out there, just for the record. Anyway, but in our since Arkansas has been a state since 1836, so during that time, I would say that we are traditionally have been more conservative, even though we are the home of former Governor Bill Clinton, hi. And then, so that's our claim to fame is we produce Bill Clinton, which a lot of people view his presidency favorably, other than the Monica Lewinsky scandal. But, you know, if you remember, he did not inhale.
That's right.
Man,
he didn't have sex with that woman.
That dude cracks me up, man. It's hard to believe that they're from here, but it's so easy, really, if you know more about it. Have you ever seen that documentary, The Clinton Chronicles?
No, I never have seen that one.
It's on YouTube. You should check it out.
I need to check some stuff out on YouTube.
Yeah, I watch YouTube quite a bit, man. And see, I think we're headed more that way. Some of the stats I'm getting, just like researching for the podcast, I think are bogus, because the stats that I'm getting, and I may just not be seeing it yet, but right now, the one particular stat is that if I upload this, let's say we weren't doing video. So like later on today, I'm doing an audio only podcast. So some people don't like to be on camera, and I'm like, you guys are killing me. But I'm like, no, it's cool. Don't like. Some people are just way more relaxed. If they're on the camera, they're just like, you know, they just can't act normal. And it is, you know, it's normal. The more times that people podcast, like some people have already been on more than once. Like this will be the third time that I've had Booty on the podcast. So he's coming this afternoon. But like that, if I have an audio only podcast that I upload in video format on YouTube, it's going to get fewer listens or views. And that's actually my 2 most viewed podcasts on YouTube.
Audio only?
Audio only.
I tell you what blows my mind is this younger generation, and I've talked to parents and like their kids. I coach soccer for U8, you know, and there's this this group coming up, and like YouTube's a job. Like it's like, hey, what do you? Dude,
I'm trying to monetize both my channels.
Dude, they're like, what? You know, you're like, hey, what do you want to do when you get older? Not architect. No, it's like I want to be a YouTuber.
Dude, I closed my that's a thing. Yeah,
I know.
I closed the member site down and moved everything to the gym's YouTube because I just like monetizing it. That's a way shorter term monetization. Come to find out, and I didn't know any of this. And I think I told you a bunch of it already on the phone after I learned it. But I did a class with the dude that plays Master Ken.
Oh yeah,
yeah. His name is Matt Page. He didn't even have a mustache. That's a fake mustache, bro. So Master Ken entered the dojo, Ameridote. A lot of people have seen that.
It's quality work there, sir. Quality.
Yeah. Well,
his workout video for Sweat and Bullets. Man,
oh my God, dude. Yeah, the machine gun shells. That wouldn't go over well right now. Like, I bet they're not sharing that. Maybe they should. Yeah. It'll probably be one of those videos that goes viral because of the subject matter again. But that's I never thought about it in the terms that he broke it down. And once I did, I just reevaluated everything in terms of I think that the way to go is to provide free content to people and get the host and servers and pick the hosts and servers of the content you provide wisely, so that like I think I told you recently, like I don't want to have a middleman between me and my content, whether that's a blog or a video. So that is what so now all our web guy does for us is hosting.
So let me ask you this. So you're doing that. So when you're driving like your people, like your viewers or whatever, however you group them together, are you trying to drive them more like to a web-based platform or more like to your YouTube channel? I
was. And I just, like I said, like here locally, like if I were to go broad with it, and I was kind of beta testing it locally on our members, but we just weren't, we were getting people log in using it, but then it's like there was serious lag time between the videos I would edit and provide and them getting uploaded and just, this, that, and the other. So I just and two, outside of that YouTube class I did, which is all about like making a show. So like, that's essentially what I'm trying to do here. This is like the super humble beginnings. It's like, my goal would be to, like I said, kind of start doing, different locations.
Yeah.
So like starting filming in my office or setting up to film in the gym. Like, so like we've cleaned out that one room with has the shower and like where like the closet is and all that. Mm-hmm. I thought about just throwing a couple of chairs in there and I could just but like I'm trying, and I'm probably not going to do that at the gym. It's just so hard to rely on filming anything other than technique videos and vlogs and stuff. By the way, it's called a vlog.
A vlog.
It's not a vlog.
Is that like?
I was calling it a vlog. I don't know why. So I heard somebody call it a vlog, and here's the thing: people call it a vlog. That's a thing. There's an article out there that has all these other misnomers. Like when I send you a thing, you know, I'm gonna do it right now while we're on. Let's see. I'm going to send you this. So what would you call what I just text you?
I'm waiting for it to come through.
Yeah, it'll come through.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to send you something else after that. And I'm going to give you like the two. So like there's this article out there I read. It's super funny. Did you get it?
Yeah. So I would call this a GIF. A GIF.
That is correct. GIF. That is how you say it. I call it a GIF forever, but it's GIF.
Because if you put a T on it, it's a gift. So GIF makes sense, right? Not a GIF.
Yeah. That is totally right. So,
yeah. But then you got this down here, the GIPHY, the Jiffy, which is also a brand of peanut butter. So I don't know. Is it a Jiffy or is it a Giffy?
Yeah, I don't know. I always read Giffy, bro. So I'm going to send you something else. And this is a funny picture of Frankie Edgar. And it says, and it's after he unfortunately got knocked out at UFC 222, it says, "This edible ain't shit." And underneath it says 45 minutes later. And it's a picture of Frank after he got knocked out by Brian Ortega on UFC 222. Did you see that fight, man?
Yeah.
If you didn't, I can throw it up on the Fight Pass if you want to watch it.
It is cool.
Yeah, but man, it was super, super brutal. I can't believe Frankie got knocked out like that, dude.
It made news, man.
First time he's ever been finished.
Yeah. And you know, Ortega was like, yeah.
Yeah, man. He's got such a good-looking face. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
like his face is just like, it's like, dude, you could be famous, bro. You kind of are. Anyway, so
now I would call that a meme. Is that right? Is meme correct? M-E?
Some people would say meme. I know someone from the gym that has a brown belt that says meme, and it's not me, and it's not Jeff Woods, and it's not John Brashear. So anyway, Motley,
yeah,
from season from all of our Sons of Anarchy season reviews, he came on the podcast. So Motley's moving, man. He became a game and fish officer,
moving up in the world. Pottsville to game and fish.
You know what, game and fish? They're like Joe Rogan had a game and fish guy on his podcast, and so you know what game and fish people do in like L.A.
Is there even like wildlife in LA?
Oh yeah, dude. There's like coyote problems, and
so they're basically like a nuisance abatement team.
In a sense, yeah. But they also study them, so it's fascinating how. So like, there's a correlation. So I see coyotes around the gym all the time.
Yeah.
But there's a correlation over the last 30 years, and then even before that in bigger cities, with leash laws. And coyotes moving into cities and like eating your cats and stuff.
Yeah, that's normal. It's like right now we got the hog problem, right? That's being studied everywhere.
Are we having that around Russellville?
Oh, we got land up in Dover and we got hogs everywhere. But they're doing that abatement for the farmers, right? So Texas, man, it's huge deal down there for Texas, and Arkansas is a huge deal too. But the University of Arkansas Extension people, they've got like a whole website, whole web presence just dedicated to the study of that. But, we've got that wildlife and fisheries major up there at our university. And there's a lady, and she just did a study on feral cats. And her whole graduate thesis that she worked on, she would walk around and she would tag feral cats. And then
interesting.
Yeah. So she got money.
There's so many everywhere, dude, at the back of every restaurant, everywhere.
I know. And she's about done. I'm kind of curious to see what she's going to find out. But the Game and Fish, the Forestry Service, they've all got divisions of biologists and botanists.
Yeah,
and people
I've
that
got a
work for
couple
them.
of guys at the gym that work the Forestry Service.
Yeah, and they just go out, and their whole job is to like track the patterns of bugs, track the patterns of wildlife, of plant life, and to see if there's any changes. Like, we had the deer, they've got that chronic waste disease going on right now that they're tracking as well. So they're tracking all that stuff so that people know what to expect and what's to happen. And then that's actually a precursor to kind of what's going to happen in your area and what the wildlife's doing. So they've got some pretty cool stuff out there on researching that and how that correlates with changes in the environment and how that correlates with different things happening. So like if you come in, for instance, and you put in like a really nice way to like divert the river so you can have the river be bigger. The Arkansas River used to only be so big. You have the bridge at Darnell over there.
Yeah.
That you could basically step across it. There's people that are alive today back then in the 50s and the 60s before they did the Arkansas McMillian navigation project.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually go to the Arkansas River and just like step over it. It was like a little creek.
And that was in like probably the 30s, like a New Dealer era.
Yeah. And then they came in and they actually did all that. Well, that changed the area totally.
Oh yeah, they flooded Russellville.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing in Europe too, man. Like Northern Europe, like Dutch countries, Netherlands. Yeah. They actually, so in the wars of Louis XIV.
What are you doing?
I wanted to get a dramatic moment, but so France did invade the Netherlands at some point, and the way that they were able to drive them out is they flooded their own country. Basically, they undid a water project, like what we're talking about, like unleash some dams. And so I want to say that they brought in Dutch flood engineers after Hurricane Katrina to provide as consultants and to provide services.
I know, like the Tennessee Valley Authority, which was the big answer to the Great Depression from
That's
Roosevelt.
a New Deal era program too.
Oh,
yeah. So I've been going really seriously down an LBJ hole, and he was a New Dealer. There's a story of when he met FDR for the first time, and immediately asked FDR for like an appointment. He's like, "Hey, would you appoint me to this?" But like LBJ was an ardent New Dealer at in the 30s when he was first coming up as a politician, late 30s, when FDR was still alive. So like pre-World War II. Yeah, LBJ was a gangster dude in a lot of ways. I'm not saying he killed Kennedy, but he was a gangster.
So on your YouTube channel, now that you've been doing this, have you noticed any changes? Any positive stuff coming around?
Yeah, I got a few comments rolling through. Like, I still read comments because I don't get a ton of them, but it's still super early. Like, my goal here, so I've been doing that podcasting masterclass. My goal now is to do 5 podcasts a week. So I'm doing, I didn't do 5 last week. I did 3 last week. I'm doing 3 this weekend, and I have a couple of solo podcasts that I've done that I haven't uploaded because I need to finish one more, and they go in chronological order. And I paused one, and I was going to finish it, and then I recorded the next 2, and I don't want to upload them out of sequence.
So let me ask, this might seem kind of like a silly question, but just from people listening, so quality over quantity, right? So do people resonate more, like your top podcast, for instance, like, How Stuff Works or The Manliness Show, Rogan, all those people?
Yeah, that work, like the how-to videos are big.
Yeah. So you've got all these people out there. It's like Rogan, the Rogan Experience, right? Or Jocko, which I like the Jocko podcast
Jocko's
myself.
the man, dude.
Good. Discipline equals freedom. Man, dude sounds like super intense. It's
He's an
pretty
inspiring
awesome
guy. I love him.
Yeah, he's got he did a side note. He did a track on iTunes, right? And so you can download his albums, which is basically him telling you to get after it. He just has like the good morning wake up.
Nice.
And it comes on. It's like 30 seconds. Like, get out of bed and get after it. Don't stay in bed. Basically they're yelling at you. It's supposed to motivate you to do better. And it's like $15. I didn't pay for it, but I was like, all right. Because it's free on YouTube.
Dude, diversification is big.
Yeah.
I think that, right? one thing, like, so I got the 5 podcast a week idea from the podcasting masterclass. And part of that is building an audience. So like I am noticing a correlation and then consistency of upload. So I'm doing guest spots. I'm doing solo casts. And I'm going to start, and I have been, I've got a couple that I have an iMovie that I'm editing right now that are clips.
Yeah.
So like I've had like 3 podcasts total that I know for sure I'm pulling these clips. And one's me talking about something, one's a guest, and the other 2 are guests doing readings. So I'm going to pull those. So those will be super small. Right, I put everything into playlist. That's another thing. So like that YouTube autoplay feature, right?
Yeah.
That's what another thing. But it's just logic to find that, like I said, that all the articles and blogs out there tell you that audio on video platforms gets the fewest number of hits. And on the video platform, I'm not seeing that,
Yeah.
So I am doing some audio. I'm going to start doing phone calls. I'm figuring out how to do this side chain on my mixer, and that's really not that hard to do. So like when I did Chris Thompson's podcast, and that was on the phone. So I'm going to experiment with like doing a phone podcast, or maybe like Joe Rogan's even done a Skype podcast. I bought a digital audio recorder that I'm picking up probably today or Monday. It's in. Maybe he said it's coming in today, so I may have to check. I may pick it up Monday because I got that other podcast. But another thing is I have 5 shows, really. It's all one podcast. So like you're a Life Unraveled guest.
Yeah.
You're number 14.
Well, I feel special.
I've
Should have
had
been number 1.
I know, man.
Just saying.
You're a busy guy.
I know.
Doing things that,
saving the world, dude.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Yeah, no, we're both super busy people. Sometimes we pass each other in the morning on our way to do whatever at like
6:30, 5 o'clock.
Dude, I know I've seen you before 5:30 a.m. at a stoplight, and we're like right there in front of the university, and we're passing each other. It's like, hey.
How you doing?
But nah, man, I get up at like 4:30 is when I set my first alarm, and then at 4:35 is my second alarm. So I snooze the first, then I snooze the second. And by the time the snooze goes off from the first one, I'm totally pissed off at the alarm. So I just get up.
I'll tell you something funny is there's a book out there I was reading called The 5-Second Rule, Mel Robbins. Anyway, she had a thing on sleep in there, and she was talking about, when your alarm goes off, you're coming out of your sleep cycle. So if you actually reset your alarms, the research that she was presenting says that it's going to take you another 90 minutes to be fully functioning if you hit the snooze button, because you actually enter into another sleep cycle. Mm-hmm. So it takes you 90 minutes just to kind of come out of it. Now we think we do, I guess, because I know I hit the snooze button every morning. Like mine goes off at 4:35, and 4:45 is my target get out of bedtime. And I know that I do that. But that hour and a half, 90 minutes, I never have thought about it. I've been trying to pay attention to it the last couple of months because I read that book back in the fall. And some truth to that. Like if I get up right when my first alarm goes off, I'm actually a little more active earlier in the day. And then if I wait and hit the snooze like once or twice, I'm a little more groggy, and it takes me a little more coffee to get going after that. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I've got a coffee.
Yeah.
I just remembered. I may go get that here in a second.
So the question on quality versus quantity. So Michael Hyatt was one of the first people to reach 1 million viewers or followers on his social media stuff back in the day. Yeah. And I say back in the days when I was PO for Russellville, I had to study this stuff. And he did a book he released. And I remember reading about it and going through some of his stuff online. And he was talking about consistency. And so the question I've always had is consistency, right? So I can't produce world-class memes or GIFs or GIFs or produce world-class material, memes, every time I put something out, right? So I might do 5 things a week to create consistency.
It's just like the Jordan stat.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many times Jordan threw the ball up versus how many times he scored points.
Yeah.
He threw the ball up a whole bunch and didn't score. Like an insane amount, like the number of I'm going to pull up that stat right now, but go ahead with what you're saying.
I think that's the answer, because it's like one of those things, so people listening, they're like entrepreneurs or people out there listening to this, kind of wondering about, I can do a YouTube channel, But then people get caught up, I think, in this idea that you've got to produce world-class art that's going to go viral every time you upload it, right? Yeah. But only certain people can do that because only certain people have the followership to make that happen. So as you're doing this process, or you're going through it, I didn't know if there was anything that you're in your master class or anything you're looking at that talked about that or addressed the issue of quality over quantity or consistency versus...
It's big on consistency. That's why I got the 5 a week thing, is so you have consistent uploads. So like even if I upload a clip, so like today, like, so I might not get that 5th one. Like I'll get that 5th one this week by doing those, by finishing out that one audio. I'll actually get 6 this week. But that is a thing. I mean, and that's why I'm wanting to start doing the clips. I've even considered doing the clips on another channel, but I'm going to keep them on my channel for now because I'm building the gym's YouTube in a similar way. So I have 171 videos on the gym's YouTube right now. So, you know, come back on the podcast. We'll do a Judo Unraveled when I have 1,000 videos. My goal is for 1 year from this month to have 250 podcasts. So by March of 2019 to have 250 episodes. My original goal was 100 in the first year. I'm going to crush that. So one way or another, but I have these 5 spots, so that allows me to diversify in terms of, I haven't done the first one yet, but I'll start getting on those super quick because I've been doing tons of research. I've probably done over 40 hours of research this year on this 1968 project I'm doing. And fortunately, probably next semester I'll get to teach U.S. history too, so I'll get to lecture on that same stuff. I'm going to use some of those things as lecture notes, but all on this LBJ stuff. So history unraveled. I just think after the show where I just do TV and movie reviews. So we've done a few
clips of those, yeah.
Well, you know, like anything in that, like one time we were doing one of those and we talked about everything. It should have just been like, then there's the Life Unraveled. So that's just like, we're Life Unraveled right now. So you're the Life Unraveled guest this week. I'm trying to do a Life Unraveled guest every week. And then the music Unraveled. So we're reviewing concerts that we went to see. So like I'm going to go see A Perfect Circle in Dallas. That's going to be a good one.
That'd be nice.
I've seen Dave Matthews here in a few weeks.
So are you taking your guest with you that will come back and talk about it? Or how's that work for you?
Sometimes, like Booty and I could have gone to Avett Brothers the other night, but it was in Tulsa and Cora was out of town and I would have had to move my schedule around. It was just going to stress me out. And so I was like, no, I'm just going to hold off. But he went, so he's going to come on and talk about that today. But sometimes it's that, or sometimes we just like sit down and we're listening to a band on the TV. Like one of my long-term goals, and by like over the next year, I'm trying to monetize the podcast. So we got on Spotify, so I'll get pays per play, but I'm trying to get YouTube monetization. I'm trying to get some sponsors that I could like, so when I did a little intro for you, I'll be like, listen here, cocksuckers. That's how Joey Diaz like starts his podcast, and then he's reading, then he's like, Burger King, chicken sandwiches, you know, and it's, so he did like ads at the beginning, but it's like
the Joe Rogan experience.
Yeah, a podcast doesn't hit you with a ton of ads, and man, it's cool because I'm learning about podcasting. I did this master class. I was hoping that, I was like, man, I was considering doing not a master class for film.
Yeah.
And I still may. There's a way you can get an annual subscription, and I may do that.
It's super cheap too, man.
It's like $180.
Yeah.
And I paid like $30 for the Adam Carolla podcasting masterclass, but there's one on there with Scorsese and Ron Howard and comedy with Steve Martin.
It's like legit people that are at the top of the game. Like, let me tell you how I did it. And you're like,
yeah, let's look up what all.
It's like $20. You're like, oh, sweet. Masterclass, man. That's a pretty sweet deal.
There's a bunch of master classes. One on writing.
I wish
Gordon
I would have thought
Ramsay.
of masterclass, man.
Yeah.
Because that'd been great.
This could have been us.
Yeah.
But that's too, man.
Side hustles.
I'm just trying to follow. My idea to do this, to do a podcast for over a year.
So what's interesting, Forbes magazine just had an article come out about side hustles, and they called it Side Hustles. And they were talking about people that have business or in business or whatever. And they said the goal in life is to make your side hustle, which is what you like to do, what you want to do, make it your main hustle. right? So
Yeah.
you work at it till you get where you want to. So it's pretty interesting.
Well,
We're talking about like the new entrepreneur, man. It's all about side hustles becoming your main hustle.
Well, I think this too more than anything, and like I'm just stealing and then repeating something that Joe Rogan said that a guest said that I watched both of those episodes. So Sturgill Simpson was recently on, and he was saying, he's like, I'm not in the music business, I'm in the Sturgill Simpson business. And that's just it. Like, I can't actually brand myself as Brian Wilson because that's already a dude in the Beach Boys. I mean, I can't like make any social media page. There was an issue there. I had to submit to Facebook when I made my Brian Wilson Jiu-Jitsu, when I was competing all the time and sponsored, when I made my Brian Wilson Jiu-Jitsu page on social media for like shout outs and to sponsors and stuff like that, and just sharing about competitions and videos. But they were like, hey, well, you can't use this name. You can't make a page that's a part of it, that's an organization or a fan page or anything like that with Brian Wilson, the name. There's no websites with my name.
So because you're not a Beach Boy?
Well, because that guy's got everything on lock.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll be on lock even after he passes away.
Like Elvis Presley's on lock forever.
Yeah, so I'm probably never going to get those domains, but like I'm doing a Sports Unraveled playlist in YouTube, but I've done 3 Jiu-Jitsu Unraveleds and I've done 7 MMA shows. So while you're the 14th guest on Life Unraveled, there's 10 other episodes, 11 other episodes, not 10. In the Sports Unraveled playlist between Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, we're going to do a boxing episode here soon. So it's really just like everything I'm already involved in. And then too, just like sitting down with cool people, like it's a great way to decide. I was like thinking earlier, I was like, I just sit down and talk with my friends. They're super busy and they can justify it because it's this super new hipster thing called a podcast.
I don't know if it's a new hipster, but yeah.
Just be like, hey, I've got an appointment. I'm going to be on a podcast. And people like, you tell them that and they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like it's not, when I hear that, I wouldn't be like, what are you doing? Like what's a podcast? But everybody, that's just kind of, particularly people on commutes. But too, some people from my generation are listening to podcasts on these commutes on YouTube instead of doing audio downloads and stuff. Do you need to make any phone calls?
We're good, man.
Because I'm going to go grab my coffee real quick if you do.
I think you should.
We can pause or edit it or whatever, but I meant to get a drink before we started the podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and grab it real quick. All right. Got the coffee. Life's good. Perfect temperature, too. Man, why do they give you coffee so hot? We got a gas station coffee before, and it was like 4,000 degrees, like burning through your flesh if you spill it on you.
Remember the Walmart? The McDonald's lawsuit?
Yeah, like
$15 million for coffee.
Burn somebody's lap off.
It's coffee, man. It's hot. It's like common sense,
it is. I always actually get a cold brew, but I actually get it with no ice.
You do the nitro brew, though, don't you?
A lot of times.
There's a way more caffeine in that than there is in normal coffee.
You're damn right there is.
It's like, legal drug addiction, man. Cool stuff.
Yeah. Mormons will not take any caffeine in.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it makes your body do weird things? Are they worried about stepping off that slippery slope?
I don't know. I could be incorrect on that. I know for a fact I feel like they won't drink green tea. But I also feel like I sold some Spark to a guy one time that was a Mormon, and he said that he could have it, and it had caffeine in it. It has a little bit. So they might be able to drink coffee.
Maybe they haven't discovered pre-workout yet or put it on their banned substance list.
Yeah, I wonder if that's how that works, like a banned substance list.
The Mormons got a list they send you every week. Don't do this.
Yeah, so what we were talking about, master classes and podcasting and stuff. So I'm going to need more equipment to do some of the things I want to do.
That's how it is, man.
We did our fight companion the other night. That went to the Sports Unraveled, so we bought the UFC. So as I was saying, if you want to watch on the Fight Pass, the Ortega fight, and I can throw it up. But so like what I'm going to try and figure out how to do now is to split the audio. I want the audio coming from the mixer from the TV. It's from the TV into the mixer and then into our headphones, and does not record. But I'm also going to start recording, like when we play songs and stuff, because when it goes out onto the audio platforms, I don't have to deal with those copyright issues. Yeah. It's just YouTube that I don't want it to record. So I want it to record on the digital recorder that I'm going to be having next week instead of my Mac. So then I'll eventually need to get my own dedicated computer, which is what this one's pretty much become. But I don't want this computer to be the podcast computer. It might be, but I need another one. So I'm probably going to, I'm thinking about building one for the studio that has the hard drive storage, the processing power, the operating system, the video, everything I need, and doing it like that. Because the reality is, I want to be able to do this show or shows without a producer. I want to be able to record in multiple locations. So the digital recorder is going to allow me mobile recordability. And then next thing I'm going to get is a portable mic.
Well, and I think the producers come in because when you monetize it and all of a sudden you're just like flush with cash, you're like, hey,
then, if I ever were to go off site from where we are now, well, honestly, my long-term goal is to, we're going to probably live here for, I would say, more than 5 years. That would be the plan. But let's say in 5 years, if we feel like we're going to live here for another 5 years or longer, I want to
build a studio.
Well, I want to do a carport, and I'll kind of, when we walk out, I'll show you what all the plans are out here. We're getting a big load of dirt brought in and about to spread a whole bunch of hay. It's about time to start mowing the yard, dude.
It is spring, man.
Yeah,
it'll be good though.
But
weather change.
I know. And so I got this, and that's what slowed me down on that outdoor project was just got hit with the cold weather and then the rain. And but now it's getting nice outside, especially by the middle of the day. But it's still been frosting in the mornings.
Well, I tell you, the weather, man, it's about changed. It's about time to start putting your plants in the ground. I do gardening and stuff because we grow our own.
Yeah, man, I want to move that same direction myself. I'm trying to make this like the homestead.
Yeah, so we believe in sustainability. Like we got chickens and rabbits and stuff.
I'm trying to get some chickens.
We do our own eggs, our
compost
own food.
Pile.
Man, it's good. We got a dog that makes sure they don't get eaten. That's what's important.
See, man, I want to fence my yard in. I'm so paranoid about my dog.
Yeah, but if you're looking at homestead or sustainability, like, my recommendation for anybody, it's a process. Some people just haul off and try to do everything on the front end or whatever. Man, it's incremental.
Yeah, additions. I know. We may not even add chickens or garden this season. It's going to have to come, because we're still young. We're still getting our life lined out.
Well, I'll tell you, the way I did it is we did like some herbs one year. Then I did container garden the next. Did raised beds one year. I did raised beds, and then we added some row garden the next year. So it was like 5 years process for us to get to there. But through that process, it's manageable.
See, I want to do like some raised beds on, seeing like my house kind of on a downward sloping hill.
Yeah.
And that's why I had all this stuff brought in to kind of give us more of a level pad and an incremental drop out there by the deck. But what I want to do is maybe in 5 years, if we decide we're going to stay here pretty regularly, is to build a carport with like a loft area and set that up as my studio and put some mats underneath the loft and throw up a heavy bag and
putting cars in there.
Yeah, put a couple cars in. I'm talking like building almost like a shop type carport, like just big open, probably just like one big garage door that comes up that I can pull 2 cars into, and they'll sit right there. And then in front of that would be like, everything else. Yeah. But I wouldn't really use it for anything other than training, podcasting. And then I can consolidate too. So like, I feel like with that model, I could have everything I want, because like I may end up moving this table too and turning it the other way as I expand on things and as I get this other wall finished. But man, I feel like I'm just super into podcasting right now because I'm taking that master class. So I'm like all chatty about it and everything. But
yeah, well, that's good though. It's good to have aspirations, things. I think the thing people do a lot of stuff and they lose that drive or that motivation to do it. It's the people that can keep it after that motivation's gone. That's the trick. Is how do you take a project that you're super motivated about and you start it, and after about 2 months of it, you're like, man, that's a lot of work. And
it is,
like,
man.
It starts dying down, but being disciplined and actually getting past that motivation feed.
I've done tons of things like that. Have petered out for me over the years, and in relation to things I'm already doing, though. You know, I mean, like pretty much, like anything with the gym is been and stayed super consistent. But we try new business processes and they fail or don't work, or try to do certain things a certain way, and it's just like trying to always figure out what to do it's pretty much what I'm focused on.
Trying to figure out how to reach that market.
And two, some people cannot live with it. That didn't work. Like they just struggle with it, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't. And then two, on the flip side of that, some people don't like legit live these unhappy lives, or maybe just they're not unhappy, or they don't know why they're unhappy, but because they don't have aspirations. They're content. They don't have hobbies. They don't have anything, or everything's a burden. It's like I've met people like that. And I think that's why I am the way I am with a lot of things, is like focused on forward progression and everything I'm doing, and then consistency. Like I've played music since junior high. I've got a music room, so like if I get a studio outside, I can bring all of that into one location. I can have like this idea of having like a sectional, almost set up like a little living room.
Yeah.
And do either that, or like I would like to do like multiple locations, or not multiple locations. That's what I'm going to do in the short term, but multiple, instead of having, hey, let's switch camera angles and blah, 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 having one where it's like, we're all just sitting on a couch watching the TV instead of sitting here at the table with the TV right there.
Yeah.
You know, or we're all just kind of sitting in two chairs, just kind of kick back, like in a living room type setting. It's like couch, two chairs, or sitting at a table is kind of like my three visions for like backdrops, and like making them their own individual thing. So I don't ever plan on going more than 3 cameras, but then I have to get the hardware to switch between the cameras, whether that's voice activation or button. So
Big dreams.
figuring out how to do all that, dude, is the hardest part. It's probably, I was doing the math on it. I probably don't need $2,500 of equipment. And dude, that's like, in 1 year, I think that I'll be rolling in some sponsors. I think I'll be making money from ads on my different. So I've diversified a lot, like with what I'm doing. And the two podcasts that's telling you got the most views on YouTube are Jiu-Jitsu Unraveled about Hickson.
Yeah.
And so like I've just been trying to be super real with my content. It's like doing the vlogs. It's like I did these vlogs on the gym page on like training with Jack Toffer and training with Hickson. The next one I'm going to do is Hickson when he's promoted to red belt, and how fucking awkward that was.
Well, since you were the guy working with him, that's going to be pretty cool.
It will be. And what I think I might do.
Think about it, you were the last guy to work with him.
I know. I realized that after he was promoted. Dude, it was such an emotional time. I like teared up. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's getting promoted to red belt. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean,
worked with him as a black and red.
yeah. And then it was
Crazy.
like, I was the last one. And like, I walked up to Caleb and Jack. I was like, I was with Hickson 2K when he was promoted to red belt. And they're like, and Dring says that too. He's like, you were Hickson's, okay? When he told somebody that. I think he told Donnie Aaron that. So
yeah, world famous.
Yeah.
In the jiu-jitsu world, right? See?
Yeah.
Who was that guy that was with Hickson? Oh, Brian Wilson.
That was me.
Yeah,
Navy blue gi.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to tell that story of that. So basically from the Navy blue gi forward.
Yeah.
What we were doing when it happened, how awkward it was when it happened, and then when he said he didn't want the promotion for like 20 minutes and all the speeches. And what I'm probably going to do is like watch it while I commentate on it, and do a podcast episode on that, and then just do a vlog at the gym. And man, I just think too, I think free content and getting platforms like YouTube to back you.
But do you find it?
Or iTunes or whatever.
do you find it hard to get your content though? Like as you're going through, like, so five podcasts a week, that's 5 topics. Is that hard, or is it just mainly geared toward?
Not really, because you're the topic.
I'm the topic.
You're the topic and whatever I've got going on. Yeah. And just like, it's just like that's why, like I said, like we maybe wouldn't get to talk this long at one time. Yeah. If I wasn't doing the podcast, because we're both busy.
Conversation.
So it's a way, it's like almost an excuse to sit down and talk with your buddies. But too, like I have a goal. So like, I hope if I have any women listeners, which I know I do, I've got some female guests scheduled. So I've got a lady named Christina Mello, and she is going to come on and talk about suicide awareness. She's been, I want to say she recently had something that ran in the...
Does she work for somebody, or what's the story there?
She's actually a nurse.
Because we do that, I think April 7th, that weekend, is our Out of the Darkness walk.
Really?
At Tech, and it's one of the top ones in the country for raising money for the American Suicide Prevention Foundation. Man, it's a really good event.
What date is that?
April 7th is the day of that walk. It'd be kind of nice if you did something tied into that.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Well, and suicide's getting more prevalent just around the United States and the world in general. And I think as we go through some more of this other stuff, I think that's it's only going up, and people are doing a lot of work right now to get that number down and help people out. And it was interesting. I went to a session in Las Vegas at a conference I attended, and Harvard just did a study on suicide, and it's called the Mean Study. And I didn't really realize this. We always talk about, if you want to prevent people from committing suicide, pay attention, because it's not a random act. So people might start giving you their stuff. They might start acting different, changing behavior, changing their mental behavior, kind of looking at them. You can tell that something's going on with them, Generally, if you have a friend or a buddy that you like or someone you hang out with, if something's bothering them, you typically know that's happening, right? Well, Harvard just released a deal, and they say 70% of suicides are impulsive. So basically, you got a friend that maybe his girlfriend or somebody dumps him.
I haven't heard impulsive. I've heard that these people don't show signs. So like a lot of times, family and friends are left with this why.
It's an impulsive. It's because it's impulsive. So they call it impulsivity. So 70% of suicides are impulsive. So if 10 people commit suicide, 7 of them were kind of spur of the moment, like in the heat of the moment decisions where they had a major life change or something occurred that
crisis, traumatic event.
And it could be anything from a relationship breakup to financial distress to loss of maybe position or loss of stature or anything. And depending on who it is, depends on how that affects them. And so that kind of blew my mind a little bit, because I used to think of suicide as a police officer. I've been to a lot of calls where people have killed themselves or they've died. I've seen a lot of dead bodies just in the line of work.
I was going to actually ask you about some of that, man. I mean, I know, right? That's got it. And I've met cops and heard law enforcement talk about how that's traumatic for them to deal with. Just the day in, day out, like you work in suicides. Like somebody was telling me one of the very first things they had to work was a suicide as like a rookie cop.
Yeah, and I think what happens is over time, there's some really good information out there. Just in responders in general, we do what we call detachment, and that's called basically emotionally detached from situations. Because if you're emotionally invested in a situation or emotionally charged, you can't make a good professional judgment to help resolve that situation, right? So when you go to that thing, when you first start, you're trying to find your way or find how it would do. Because a lot of people, it's interesting in our profession, and I tell people this all the time, is you think you want to be a police officer? Man, that's great. Come apply, get on the force. Great. And you might have somebody that's like physically fit, looks like a cop, right? Puts on that uniform, you're like, man, that guy's a cop. He looks like a police officer.
So put together, his boots are shiny.
And then he gets on the job and, man, he hates it. Even though his whole life, that's what he thinks he wants to do. And then you get a guy in there that you're like, this guy's never going to make it. And it turns out, man, he's the guy. That he's going to be the future police officer. Is going to do a good job. He can handle the stress. He can do what he needs to do. It's just a job you don't know if you can do it till you get into it. And that's the thing people don't understand is it's like a lot of stuff is until you're put in those situations and have to deal with that or deal with those instances or whatever, you don't know if it's going to be for you. So one of the ways we deal with a lot of that stuff is just through emotional detachment. The trick with that is there's a guy out there, it's called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. He wrote a book, Gilmart. I mean, it's a really good book. It's probably one of the number one books we actually have at our office. We have several copies, and I hand it out to my officers just so they can kind of read through it before they start the job and get on the job. Because we got to make sure a couple things. Number one, suicide is a huge thing for law enforcement community, right? It's a huge thing. We have one of the highest rates of suicide for the profession in the United States. It just is, because all the traumatic, post-traumatic stress stuff you go through, all the stuff you see, you know, it's a lot to handle. And so it's just a high rate of suicide for our profession. The other thing is we tend to take that emotional detachment and we apply it to our family, our personal lives, our friends. And so you're never...
Yeah, I know. And the job, right?
And you're never invested. So you find with emotional attachment, you never get invested in anybody. So like a good example is like your wife or your kids. I mean, I love my wife and my kids, but I've got to make a conscious effort to make sure that I spend time with them.
Put the time in
and have that relationship, because they need that, because a lot of that, I mean, that affects people's lives so much. And then the other thing is, you know, we have what's called gallows humor. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Like, we'll make fun of shit or stuff that you probably shouldn't make fun of, right? Like dead bodies.
Like Joey Diaz.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll say, you'll make fun of child. I mean, you make fun of a lot of things because it's actually a form of
coping mechanism.
Yeah. So nothing's taboo in our world a lot of times, and it would be considered a hostile work environment probably by like Title IX or like some equal employment opportunity standards.
Hey, I had to do the Title IX training, bro. Let me tell you right now.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so when we look at stuff like that, it's just a way we cope with stuff through gallows humor or through detachment from situations. And the trick for us is just to make sure that we have some mechanisms or some methods in place to help. And so if people out there and they're listening to this and they're kind of wondering like, man, what do you mean mechanisms, or what do you mean you can do? Some of the best stuff I've heard is people like us in our profession, you know, they have what they call positive self-talk, where basically you have to tell yourself good stuff, and it's not a load of crap, but basically it's telling yourself what you need to do and visualize yourself being successful in how you do stuff. Otherwise, when you go to a call and you imagine yourself on a call, or you imagine yourself in a situation that's like people shooting at you, or you imagine yourself worst case crisis stuff, you have to think about that before you go, because when you get in there and that stress hits you, you got to visualize yourself winning. And there's stories of officers out there. Oak Creek, Wisconsin, the ski temple shooting out there. Lieutenant Brian Murphy was there. He got shot 15 times on that call, right? And I heard him talk at a conference I went to, and that visualization, positive self-talk, building yourself up. He was on that concrete being shot, and the whole time he's thinking is like, how do I kill this guy? How do I kill? He used the word, how do I take this guy out? And he's crawling under a car to get away from him. And in the end, he lived. 3 days later, he walked out of the hospital.
Damn, that's some 50 Cent stuff right there, dude.
Yeah, because as he's on that concrete, he has this thought. He goes, I'm not going out like this. I'm not dying in this parking lot. I owe it to my mother and wife. Yeah.
Is so underemphasized, I feel, man. Like, you know, like how many stories I've heard of a deer getting shot and then running like 100 yards like a bullet through its heart. You know, it's will to live, and you see it. I think we see it in nature a lot more.
Yeah,
but
you see it in prison.
Yeah,
it's weird. Like you have stories of officers getting shot with a non-fatal life wound, with a 22 or 32 or a small caliber bullet, and dying. And then you got somebody in prison get shanked 42 times.
Yeah,
and they're like sitting on the table talking to you like me and you are, like nothing happened.
Man, Danny Dring was telling me that 22s kill more people than any other caliber of weapon. Is that true?
Yeah, for the FBI studies that they do, FBI releases a study.
He is an expert on those FBI stats, dude. It's like he sits around and reads them at night or something.
You should. They're fun.
Yeah, that's where you need to get that's whenever you need to get your information. It seems like that's probably the most legit source that never gets pulled from in the media.
Well, it's like, you know, everybody is talking about, you know, there's been 18 school shootings since January.
Yeah,
really, there's only been 3.
That's clickbait, dude.
There's been 3 in the United States.
Which sucks.
Because no one's checking the data. No one checks it, runs it, does what they're supposed to. Someone says it, and they assume it's right. And that's not accurate. And I think that's a problem with a lot of things is people aren't looking into these situations to see what they need to do. And like 22s do kill more people than any other caliber, according to the FBI study that they released. And then it's good information if you like that kind of thing. And for me, it applies to my job and my professional life. And so it's important for me to have that information and know that stuff because, as you're making decisions out there and you go to a call or you do something or you're training officers to make those decisions, they need that information because that could be the difference between them pulling the trigger at a lethal encounter or holding back a little bit and making a decision not to pull the trigger based on some information coming out as far as what's happening, right? Yeah. So you remember the knockout game they had where people were just walking down the street and they would just punch somebody randomly to knock them out?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Did that happen around here?
We had like one instance of it that I know of at the school, but other than that, I only know of one instance that was reported. But something like that, people watch that stuff, and then
do you see so real quick? So we were talking about suicide a second ago. Do you see that? Has that been an issue at like local schools past the secondary education level? Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's more prevalent nowadays. We had someone about 4 weeks ago did it, and it was one of those deals where like on the campus,
off campus,
okay,
at his apartment. He's going through some major life changes. Went and got a firearm from his roommate and took his own life. It wasn't his firearm; he got his roommate's firearm, and some issues there. Obviously, just talking about gun security and making sure you know where your weapon is.
One of mine is right under my mattress for when you come into my house and kill you the easily.
Yeah,
the 22 and the shotgun are also within arm's reach, so don't come here.
Yeah, so when I was on SWAT team, we were always taught to search the couch. Like if I arrest somebody, put them in handcuffs, I'm going to sit them in the house whenever after we do our search. Before I put them anywhere, I have to search that area because a lot of people that are criminals or
that's
suspects,
a good idea.
They actually hide stuff under cushions of their couch, hands behind them. Next thing you know, this guy's got a gun and you're in a bad situation, right? One you could have avoided had you just done a precursory search of that couch or that immediate area before you set them down. So, there's all kinds of stuff out there you got to think about. Just little things that if you miss could cost you your life in the end. But on the suicide thing, yeah, we find that people around this area, it's happened several times. Everything from hanging to shooting, a lot of different instances, a lot of different methods.
Well, that is a thing on these gun stats that are coming out. Is that this many deaths? A lot of times that they will report an accurate statistic, but they don't break it down. So it makes it almost a fallacy to say it in the way that they do, because they'll say X number of deaths in the United States were by guns, and you immediately assume crime, people killing each other on the streets, drive-by shooting. That's the mental image I got. Actually, the majority of those gun-related deaths are suicide. Yeah. The majority, so more than 50%.
So the American Pediatric Society that studies death in kids from like 0 all the way up to, I think it's 18 or 21. I'm trying to think what the death statistics was. They reported over 1,500 children were killed by a weapon last year, right? And of that, about 3,900 children were injured by a weapon. So firearms is the third leading cause of death in children in the United States.
Outside of that, it's like, I wonder, it's probably a small number, but you break that down, it's like a lot of those are accidental.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is firearm deaths where people commit suicide with firearms. A lot of times it's where they get the firearm from somebody else or they get the firearm from some other place, right? So, I'm a concealed carry instructor and I teach the class, and I have a big portion in that class I teach on safe storage of your firearm. Because two things, idea. Right? I can teach my children how to be safer on guns. They can shoot. They can be accurate. They could be next caliber level shooters and all that good stuff. That's great, right? And then I can teach them how to store a gun, not to touch a gun, have a safe at my house that's fireproof, one of those big mamma jammas that you can't move without a truck. It's good. But what happens when they go to their buddy's house? Are they on the same page that we're on?
See, one time I fucked up, man. My buddy came over, and I was like, hey, come check out my dad's 22 Magnum. And I just kind of, it was just I didn't even think about it because I was checking out my dad's 22 Magnum all the time. I have the same 22 Magnum to this day. Yeah. It's one of those guns I just mentioned. And But it was like the buddy that was over at my house, like he hunted too. Like we grew up hunting. We grew up in the woods with our dads. And I was like, yeah, check this out. Like I want to say it just got it or something. But I mean, I'm like 8 or 10 years old. And it was just kind of like, what the fuck are you doing bringing your buddy in here to my gun cabinet, man?
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, I didn't even think about it. I was just an innocent little child, Dad. I'm sorry.
So when I was in high school, a friend of mine, he was 17 at the time, over at his buddy's house. They were 16. For some reason, they thought it was good to play chase through the house. And they were running through their house, and he is two-story house. Guy runs into the bathroom, the buddy of mine, and he locks the door. Well, his buddy's chasing him with a shotgun, trips on the stair, hit the ground. Yeah, killed him. He died at 17 from being shot by a shotgun from a 16-year-old, right? And so it's one of those where, like, it's like, what the, you know? And both of them were kind of messed up because they were running through a house with a gun, but didn't know how to make sure it was unloaded. What the hell was he chasing somebody with it through the house for? Just playing tag? You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's like, you know, with my kids, you know, that's one of my fears is they go over for a sleepover, right? And I know at my house all my stuff's locked up, but you don't know if what someone else is doing.
That's a great point.
So we always teach our children that, you know, everybody likes the NRA, but they got a really good children's program. And they got coloring books, Eddie Eagle, some stuff like that. And basically they put out some good material for children and gun safety, which is basically like our advice always is. And as PIO at Russellville and doing those children's program and doing for college students, it's the same advice. Like if you walk into an area and you see a gun and you don't know what the hell it's there for, leave. And we always tell like kids, like find a responsible adult. Don't find the 12-year-old on the couch that's watching, you know, SpongeBob and, you know, sitting there doing this weird stuff. That's not responsible. You need to find an adult that's responsible. Hey, there's a gun on the bed. Because if they leave the area and don't touch it, it's going to help them not be injured by it when their friend's playing with it. And so I think a lot of that could be prevented with just some good education and parents storing
weapons. Well, that's why you come up with like plans for all these different things. Like you're in a restaurant or you go to a restaurant, like common stuff. Like there's a fire in the house and it's nighttime. Like you have a plan for all of that. Yeah.
And so we call that a family action plan. And so like I'm paranoid, or my wife would say paranoid. I just say prepared. I think that's the way I like to say that.
Preparanoid.
I'm preparanoid. And you know, it's pretty simple. Like you go to, let's say, go to a local restaurant in town, like so, and someone comes to the front door and they have bad intentions on that place, and you have to get the hell out. Where are you going? What's your secondary exit?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, you know, I'll get up, I'll go to the bathroom, not because I have to use the bathroom, but because I want to go walk the restaurant real quick, go to the restroom. I'll go in the restroom, I'll come out, and I'll look in the kitchen door as I pass and see if there's a door back there. But, you know, I'm just basically trying to say, hey, how am I getting out of this place? What's my secondary method of escape, right? And where am I seated compared to that, you know? People always say, like you read the blogs about wives talking about their officer husbands. Like, I know when I go in a restaurant, I got to let him sit with his back to the wall and make sure he has a total view.
You're
blah,
that
blah.
guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy. But I think that's good. I don't think it's bad.
It's good.
I've yet to have to worry about it, but I like to think I'm prepared in case I do. And I teach my children lessons too, and I think it's important to have those conversations because if my kids get those habits when they're young about just checking stuff and being prepared and being situationally aware, that's the biggest thing, right? Situational awareness can never be understated.
I know.
Right?
That's why I've been jacking with everybody with this right here. The circle game. You looked right here on camera.
Because I have to look, because I have to know if there's a weapon in your hand or what's going on.
Peripheral awareness training.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was a training called neural linguistic programming, where you have an action you do just to program yourself to set the mood for your OODA loop.
Yeah.
So.
I was talking about primacy and recency earlier today. That's another one I really invest heavily in. In a stressful situation, you're going to revert to the things you first learned, or in whatever that is that you're going through, and the things you last learned.
Yeah,
that's the two things you draw from. All that stuff in the middle maybe doesn't even exist.
Yeah, I always tell officers, you know, we train officers all the time and train thousands of officers in the course of my career. It's one of those where you don't rise to the occasion, you default to your lowest level of training. And people don't like that. They're like, yeah, what do you mean? It's like,
people don't like this either. Practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. Perfect practice makes perfect.
but there is no perfect.
If you practice something and do it wrong, like that, you'll suck at it. You know what I'm saying? But too, there's a lot to be said for grinding it out, like you were saying earlier when we're talking about consistency. Just like, you know, when you put in 16 years on a job or 20 years on a mat or whatever it is, it's like I'm coming up on when I hit 2019, have done martial arts and jiu-jitsu for 12 years. So like, man, it's just like once you spend that much time doing any activity, or, you know, sometimes it is quantity related, like 250 podcasts. I'm already getting like way more relaxed with doing it. And the more relaxed I am, the more relaxed you'll be.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm super nervous right now. So once you know, I'm sure you can tell.
Really?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I was like, dude. But man, some people are. I haven't had an issue with it or anything, and then sometimes I'm like, you know, it's really my job to like steer the conversation or whatever. But also I kind of find that there are no jobs in here and that you can't force things, you know, like we might have things that it's the goal to talk about, but like I could joke around about this about my first guest, Jesse Weiss. He's going to come back for a couple more episodes at least because he's been to 21 national parks. He's got a lot of cool stories about that, and he's doing a documentary film right now about the Buffalo River.
Has he done a documentary film before, or is this his first crack at it?
Maybe. He had a podcast at one point. He's a sociology professor at University of the Ozarks, so great dude.
Yeah.
His first guest on my podcast, and it was funny because we're like, yeah, we're going to talk about national parks and Trump's downsizing the parks, and we're going to talk about that, you know, and we just talked about Star Wars for 2.5 hours, dude. The whole time we talked about Star Wars. But so I should have just made that an after the show episode, Star Wars review.
Yeah.
Because we both just talked about The Last Jedi. But, you know, that gives us, the things that we're all interested in gives us an outlet, you know. I know we talked about, we were going to talk about different stuff, but I mean, this is like we're talking about you and we're talking about what we both got going on right now, that primacy and recency, the stuff we've been doing for years and the stuff we're doing right now.
And I think a lot of it is people don't realize a lot of stuff you do is perishable, right? So you did martial arts when you were a kid, right? Those people come out. I did it for like 10 years, man. Until I was 18. I was a black belt. Well, that's great. Well, you're 42 now. So can you still kick over your head or do an axe kick? I mean, what's the story with your life, right? And did you grapple when you were in that 10 years? Well, no, we didn't do a lot of groundwork. Well, then you probably need to do that. So it's all perishable skills. And I think people don't think about that.
There was a guy the other day talking about how his wrestling like went away because he didn't wrestle enough during a fight camp.
Yeah.
And he's like a stud wrestler, you know, and it's like just, and I think a lot of that on the training side has to, I'm sure you see this with handguns too, with training with, like whether it's in concealed or, and that is one thing that I think there needs to be some sort of mandated training, like, but there's nothing in place for that, I don't think. I mean, it's like, what I worry about is people going to see, like somebody like you getting it concealed, and then that's like the only time they go to the range is with you, and you don't see them. And then they don't go to the range again. You maybe see them 5 years later when they recertify. But I think it's just an issue that people don't get that handgun practice. So there's not that level of safety. It's like you were saying, like, oh, there's a gun left out on the bed or whatever. It's like, yeah, that might be a thing. That was a thing at my house growing up, you know.
But I think our backgrounds lend us to know the value of training. So, like, you did martial arts for 12 years. You train. You probably can get your black belt in jiu-jitsu and get promoted. Which
this month, dude.
It'd be awesome, dude. I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thanks, man.
It'd be awesome. But so you're getting that. So, I mean, and that's a goal. And so you understand that to get that, the black belt's not a gimme, man. You got to bust your butt to get it, you know? And if you're an Olympic level athlete, once the Olympics is over, you're not training that way anymore. Like Travis Stevens on his blog, he talks about it. He says, you know, I still train rough. He goes, but I don't do Olympic level training to make myself better. But we have that training background. And so what happens is you get into these conversations with people. I won't call them arguments, but conversations about, your Second Amendment right is to own firearms. And I think that's great. I never want to ever impede anybody's Second Amendment constitutional right. I think that's super important. But also, I think that if you're going to carry concealed or you're going to carry a weapon, you got to do yourself the respect
Due
of
diligence.
training. Yeah. And a good example, like for my firearms, is I carry a firearm for a living. I'm a police officer. It's what I do. And so we've got the ability.
Coppa.
I'm a coppa. So I get to carry my gun anywhere I want to go, except for federal building or some other places where it'd be trouble if I did. But I make it a point every morning before I put my gun in my holster, whatever I'm carrying that day, and then I'll do 10 dry fire drills where I draw from my holster and I go through that process, right?
Do you do it in the mirror?
Yes, I do. I look at myself and make.
Do you make a face?
Yeah, I make a serious kissy face. Oh
Blue
no.
Okay, this one's gonna be blue steel.
Yeah.
This one'll be La Tigra.
So I do that because the first time I draw my gun, if I ever get in a situation on the day where I have to draw my gun,
the first time that day. That's such a good idea.
But same thing goes for concealed people. Like for instance, people buy holsters and they buy a really expensive gun for like $500 and they spend like $10 on this holster, which is fine. But like if I have an inside the waistband holster, right? And I've got a really good quality holster now. I mean, well, that's not now, but I've always had. I spend like $75 to $80 on holsters. I don't really. To me, it's part of the gun cost. But if I draw, I think so. You need to take that?
No, freaking telemarketers calling me from local numbers.
Yeah. So like on my concealed carry, so here's people like for instance, on my holster, if I go to the range and I draw, it's really good. But what happens inside the waistband holster when you start drawing it a lot,
You shoot your dick off.
Your shirt comes untucked.
Okay, yeah.
People don't realize
that.
that because it's inside the waistband. So when I do like 10 draws with it, about the 10th or 11th draw, I got to stop, tuck my shit back in, redo my gun, put it back in the holster, and like that Kydex sits right above my belt line. Because if it sits below my belt when I draw my weapon, the belt actually curls over the top of my holster, and I can't safely reholster the weapon. So you got to make sure your holster sits correctly. I have a good grip when I draw my weapon, and that since it's inside the waistband, I got to make sure my grip is good. So as I draw, I clear my holster. I don't shoot myself in my butt, and I've got good placement. And as I draw,
what you do, like a behind the back, like a cross draw? Is that what you're saying?
No, I do I carry about the 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock range on me because I've got a little extra stuff in the front. So appendix carry, which is like the fastest way to draw, is really good. But I've got a bumper plate up there, so I actually have to carry on I carry about my 4 o'clock position on my right side, and I can reach it with both hands there. So that's another consideration to think about.
Yeah, kind of next to your wallet or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's a little in front because when I sit in a chair, I don't like the weapon pushing in my back.
Yeah, kind of between your wallet and your side.
Yeah. And so it's more like halfway between the appendix carry and a 4 o'clock. So it's good times.
Dude, I'll play this for Cora, but so on this LBJ stuff, I was listening to this thing where LBJ calls this tailor as president. He's like, I'm going to need some of those slacks you guys made me. Those are for summer pants. And this is what I want. And I want the pockets to be, and he's like, hold on. And then there's like this big long pause. He comes back and he's like burps. And he's like, all right, I want, my money and my knife fall out. I want the pockets to be an inch longer. And then also, I fluctuate 10 or 15 pounds on a month to month. So I want the waist to be a half inch here. And he's just talking to this tailor that in Texas that made him some pants. And he's like, I need more of the pants. And he's like, and then too, so, like when I'm a little heavier, they kind of cut me like sitting on a fence up, where my ball sack hangs, all the way back to my bunghole. And like, this is our freaking president. And I was like, cool, I played it for Cora. And she was like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, you thought Donald Trump was kind of crude, huh? Like, I mean, he wasn't saying I'm going to grab him by the pussy or whatever, but he was talking about like, that's how our president describes to his tailor on the phone, who he's like, the guy he's talking to is like the son of the tailor he's never even met.
Yeah.
Like your president calls you and says bunghole on the telephone, dude. What is that?
Well, and just like this is kind of a good example of the tailor conversation. Like, I want stuff that's comfortable.
Yeah, you kind of need special tailored stuff.
But and I think people, you can go out and you can spend a lot of money, on a firearm. Like, you're gonna spend $400 or $500.
Well, you're wearing kind of a tactical shirt right there, aren't you? A little
No,
bit.
it's my fishing shirt, man. It's Under Armour. It's got little breathe holes on the back.
Well, see, I think like that's been a move I've seen like a lot of law enforcement type people I know is going to like tactical training pants and just different things that are suitable for them to be like boots they can run in, but also that are durable and comfortable, pants that you can, carry in.
And so I think the other side of that, so it's kind of switching a little bit, right? So we're going from this tactical look, because like let's say you go to the mall, you can look around and be like, oh, there's some tactical pants.
I remember we went to Century Martial Arts and they had a tactical section. It's like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, what is this? It's not legit. But the move now is, how do you carry without looking tactical, right? How do you not draw attention to yourself?
Trying to be a secret ninja, dude.
Dude, for real, man. Like, if I'm someplace and I've got a weapon on me, that's fine. But I don't really need everybody in the place to know I have a weapon if I'm carrying concealed, right? If I open carry, they're all going to know, and that's fine. That's part of the deal. But if I choose to open carry, everybody knows. But if I'm carrying concealed, I need to make sure, number one, you can't see it. It's not printing on my clothes. Make sure that my firearm is a place I've actually trained with it. I can actually get to it and draw it and use it effectively. Make sure I've got a good holster. Like, I thought was funny is there's the inside of the pant holster, like you just put in your pocket, throw your gun in there. Some of those,
I have one of those.
Yeah, some of those are L-shaped, so when you draw it, it actually catches on your pocket. So as it comes out, you have just the gun. Other holsters don't have that. So when I pull it out, guess what?
I got one of each. And
I got
the one. Yeah,
you got to take another step. I got to pull my holster off my gun.
I hate that.
Slows me down.
See, but on that one too, though, I feel. I don't know. Actually, no. That's probably. I used to I remember thinking, I'm like, I could shoot this at least once in the holster.
Oh yeah.
But then I didn't know if it would jam on the holster when it recoiled.
Yeah, and on holsters, I always tell people make sure it covers your trigger, because if it's on my and I sit down and I pull that. See, trigger,
I could get my finger in the holster just enough. I would always hold the gun in my pocket. Yeah. If I would have it in there.
Man, there's so many considerations for concealed carry, open carry, and just firearms in general. Man, it's numerous. And it's an education. And I think just like we talked about suicide earlier, educating yourself on suicide, educating yourself on concealed carry. And then, since me and you have that training background, it's then train it so that you know what you can and can't do when you have it. The United States Concealed Carry Association, they got this blog or vlog, or I don't know what they call it. The vlog, yeah. And they've got some good videos, but one of the videos it talks about whenever you get a new holster, to wear it around your house for 30 days before you wear it in public.
Break it in, yeah.
Yeah, so you get used to it.
When you said several things like that, and it's all common sense stuff.
Yeah, but
who would think of it,
Yeah. I mean, I teach concealed carry classes, and sometimes I've done several renewals, and the people show up for the renewals. It's like, hey, so when's the last time you shot? It's 5 years ago when I got my concealed carry. And you're like, well, that's good. Glad you're training. But at the same time, man.
Yeah, but I mean, there's got to be sort of an upsell market there too, in a way, to be like you could almost do private lessons where all you do is go to the range with groups.
Well, and I do. I teach so what I found out is people need a couple classes, right? One I call your fundamentals of firearm class, which is your basics, because there's people out there that have never touched a gun, right? And females, a lot of times, are super nervous about it, just like guys are. But my wife's a good example.
I'm just nervous Cora's going to outshoot me.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
She does.
That's good. Females are typically sometimes better shooters than men. You know why? Because they're coachable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about it, dude. I've been arranged with females, and they're like, I don't know what to do. It's like, well, listen to me and I'll tell you.
Some of the best people I've worked with in terms of fighters have been females, just because they are coachable to a certain point. The struggle with a fighter is just getting them to do the things off the mat.
Diet.
Yeah, they'll show the discipline while they're in front of you, and then it's like, no, this is a lifestyle. You chose to fight. This is for the fight life. Somebody came into boxing and was wanting to go all hard, and this kid didn't weigh 130 pounds. And I mean, he's 18 years old, but Dame and this guy he has a fight coming up in MMA. We're just boxing. In boxing practice, we're boxing sparring. And This kid like hauls off and clocks Damon hard as fuck right in the eye and like blacked his eye the next day. I was like, damn, what happened? He's like, that little dude. So after that, Damon threw like a shovel hook, like a rear uppercut style shovel hook to his body, about like lifted him up off the mat, and that dude was done. And then that was like 30 seconds left in the round. We had a 30, 45 second break. And afterwards, I was like, nah, put your gloves back on, man. This is the fight life, bro. This is the fight life. You came in talking to me about the fight life, and this is it. Doing the shit you don't want to do. You were going to set out this round. Get up. Don't hit that dude so hard this time, and he won't hit you hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, I got a story about that I thought was pretty interesting. So, like, on the firearm side of the house, like, your equipment, the whole goal is for you to be able to get to your stuff, right? And people like those thigh rigs because they're sexy, right? They're tactical. So, you know, and people think they're real awesome. And so
Did you come up with that?
The tactical? No, that's not me. I can't claim. I don't know who came up to it, but I've heard it like my whole career. But they wear those thigh rigs, those drop leg holsters on their thigh. And I was doing a private class for a guy one time because he and his buddies, and he had that thing down to where it was like around his knee. And I was like, man, can you even get your gun? I was like, good Lord. And he's like, no, dude, it's cool, man. It's supposed to be on my leg. It's a drop holster. Drop it all the way down. I'm like, I don't think you understand the purpose of that holster. And he goes, well, what is it? I was like, so when you get your gun out, it doesn't interfere with your body armor. I said, actually, for you, since you're not wearing body armor, outside the waistband holster would be better because you're just drawing it.
I hate it when my other accessories interfere with my body armor.
Exactly, man.
It drives me insane.
People just, yeah. But knowing information like that helps out, bro.
I mean, it does. Like, that's it. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of other instances, just like what you said, where the common citizenry does not know the why.
Yeah.
Like, just like so many things I teach people in jiu-jitsu, it's like you can't, you're showing them a why, but they need to learn like 10 other more whys before they can get the overall why of what you're talking about. Like, here's why we're doing this, guys.
Yeah, and there's probably a good conversation there about principles and concept versus technique-driven schools.
Well, and two, like, I think a big part of it as well is just like, then that's been a big topic swirling around out there.
Yeah.
I think the topic is more this than anything. Methods.
Yeah.
You know, like you have shared on the podcast several times your methods. This is the methods of how you train your guys. You require them to read this book. That is your teaching method of how you want the people around you, how you're concerned for them, how you're relaying that, you know. And that is, like, I've been like really into that. So like situational rolling is a method. Rolling with no submissions is a method. Rolling blindfolded is a method. You can only do arm bars on the left arm is a method. Start from standing. They pull guard, then you go. Start back to back from sitting. So these are all like different rolling or sparring methods for jiu-jitsu, but it's like, it's the same thing across the board. It's like I try and like really diversify things. Try to never teach the same model class, especially lately. I've been more focused on it. That's why I like having other instructors involved too. So like I was talking to Albert yesterday. He's going to run a few boxing classes because he usually just comes in and beats the shit out of everybody and goes home. And I'm like, thanks, man. Like,
put in perspective, buddy.
Yeah, it was funny. Tim tried to jump around him yesterday, and he like caught Tim by the shoulder and was like, "Get back over here," because dude, Tim will get those angles, bro.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I've been working with that kid a couple times a week now because he can drive. He's 17, and he's getting incrementally better again. Dude, always.
That's how it is, man. It's like same thing with holsters. Like if you draw from the holster, if you can draw from the holster and put a round on target in under a second, you're probably a top shooter. But if you want to shave 1/10 of a second off, you got to do it thousands upon thousands of times.
So like
it's crazy how much practice it takes to get just 1/10 of a second off.
What's crazy too is like on like focus med holding, for example.
Yeah.
Like with Tim, there's 2 drills that like I taught him the drills. We've worked the drills. And we were doing some different combos that we hadn't really worked on a whole lot that day, like different setups and whatnot. But he was like just finishing with a lead hook on one of the ideas. But he was getting this angle so fast, And then there was another combo where he got the angle and then threw a 3 count. He used a little double jab. We call it the Fitzsimmons switch to get the angle and then threw a 3 count. And on both of those two different drills, 2 different combos, I couldn't even, like, there were several times I couldn't even keep up with him, and I engineered the drill.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like his skill in something that he'd been working on for less than 2 years. He can, like, get ahead of me mentally with it. Like, almost like I can't keep up with his processing speed.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. Dude, another thing he does that you would like is, I know Dring's always talking about hips and shoulders or balance points, and I say that incessantly too. I stole it from him. Is and you know that just with your judo background.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty important, I think.
And I'm sure frisking the belt.
Oh, yeah.
Well, frisking the belt to the escort position.
Do it to my wife. It's just a get.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Oh, man. Yeah. Anyway, so Tim will do this thing where he gets that angle and he'll hit you once, then slide out and pull your shoulder with it. So he's behind you here, puts his glove, hooks it around your shoulder and pulls you off balance, and then hits you again. So hits you, you're off balance, pulls you as he steps behind you more to catch up with him, pulls you off balance, hits you again. So, but man, angles are such an important concept in boxing, kickboxing to MMA as well. But in boxing, and I think that's why I encourage so many people to box, is because that's where you get good at those things. I feel the most. I tell people it's like very rarely. I mean, kickboxing a little different with like kicking setups, but for the most part, I mean, for a kick, for example, you kick me first,
Yeah.
I'll throw a kick. There are sometimes I throw a kick first, but it's usually as a counter.
Yeah.
Or it might be like a lead front kick, like a foot jab. But for the most part, it's all set up off the hands. The takedown, the clinch, and the kicks. Traditionally and statistically, if you want to talk about risk-reward, you're going to set stuff up with boxing.
Yeah. Lead jab into a takedown.
Yeah,
all that good
and I
stuff.
mean, man, I see tons of MMA and kickboxers, mixed martial arts kickboxers that don't have a jab. Jab takes time. It takes a long time. I've been jabbing for a long time, and I've just gotten better at it over the last couple of years, I feel.
Yeah.
So I've been boxing exclusively and more seriously since 2013.
And we talk about that in self-defense, just a self-defense application, you threaten the face and the person's natural inclination is to cover.
Oh, dude.
And when they cover, dude, it's for like, hey, thanks for the present, buddy.
So
Here we go.
let me run this by you. Like Mr. Dean, it was either from like a Sukanagi position or like a Tani Itoshi, like from either with an underhook or something. Like we're beside the person going to throw him backwards, right?
Yeah.
And so like we're standing there and Mr. Dean comes out there in his flannel and his long johns. And he goes like this. Didn't touch me. And then I did it several times to other people. Didn't touch me at all, but went like this and I went like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. Like I thought he was going to push my face, so I went back. That was the off balance.
Yeah. It's called eye threat. It's good.
It blew my mind because I was like, no, don't do that. And I essentially started the throw for him. I think he was doing it. It was either Obi Itoshi or it was Tani Itoshi.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a natural reaction, man. But typically what you see is like you put my face, I'll cover up or put my hands up or I'll look away because I don't want to be blind, right? It's just like a natural inclination since birth. So same with that, the eye threat or
self-preservation, yeah.
Dude, it is.
It's a strong thing.
People want to not get their head damaged where their brain is, the big computer, right?
We were this morning watching that Frank Mir-Nogueira fight. So that same self-preservation we're talking about can be overridden.
Yeah.
Antonio Nogueira,
through training.
Yeah, let his arm break.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's one of those people ask you, like, what happens if you get stabbed? Well, you keep fighting because it ain't over, is it? Right? That's the thing about self-preservation is like we do force-on-force training with simunition guns, which is basically paintball for cops, if you want to call it. It's like, but it's a pain inoculation. So when we're out there, we're training, and you get shot with a simunition gun, officers never die, right? And so there's lots of stories out there. Ohio has a good story. There was a female officer been through simunition training, right? That pain inoculation training, goes into a garage, three attackers, get shot 10 times in the garage, puts down all 3 attackers and returns fire, right? Because in training she'd been taught to fight through the pain in order to be to prevail and win, right? And she's alive today, and those other 3 guys, they're no longer with us, but she, through that training, said, I knew that I got shot, I felt myself get shot, but I knew that I wasn't dead because I did that training and I was able to push through and overcome everything. So I think that's like a huge thing that you got to think about when you're doing your training.
Back on that, yeah, I totally agree.
Sorry, my segues aren't as
No,
good as yours.
no, they are, man. It's thought provoking. They really are. I'm just a martial arts hipster dude with a man bun, bro. Like, I'm just
trying not to get killed on a daily basis.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that is, it's thought provoking. I love sitting down talking to you or Dring or going up to train with Dring or train law enforcement with him or seeing you guys training in the gym with law enforcement because it's thought provoking. Like, I love thinking about self-defense. Anybody that says self-defense is bullshit is disservice. And like, I'm in the martial arts industry, but it's like, that's it, man. Like, I like look around all the time and I'm like, and it's always been the same. Even when I had more competitors, it's like competitors are the minorities.
Yeah.
And I don't mean ethnic minorities. I mean, out of all the people at my gym, there's the fewest number of people that compete out of the bigger, larger community. And so that's a thing. It's like I treat that accordingly. So that tells me that everybody else is there for like self-defense, fitness, confidence, hobby, community, social, those reasons, instead of sport competitor. Like, it's actually, I've been being an elitist about this, but it's like pissing me off when I see people call like judo or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or anything a sport when they're talking about not the sport.
Yeah.
Exclusively. They're talking, and so I'm like, it's an art. You need to say it correctly. It's say the martial art and sport of.
Yeah.
Or I'll accept this term as a martial arts historian, self-proclaimed, martial sport. Like, so I use combat sport, but like in my thesis, when I got to like the 20th century, I started talking a lot about martial arts as sport. That's what I'd use. I'd just martial sport. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah, I can see that. And they got combat sports now.
Because you have to have multiple ways to spin it, so you don't use. Because I mean, imagine how many times in a master's thesis on martial arts, I said martial arts.
Yeah. And I think the other side of that is like competition, man. I think it's good.
It is.
You should always test yourself against other people to see kind of where you rank.
Especially at like locally, like these little regional tournaments and stuff. It's such a, that doesn't mean crazy stuff doesn't happen. There's that dude, the last tournament that made international headlines that wouldn't tap to a freaking heel hook and like let his ankle break.
Yeah. My only problem with competition is like to compete, you can't really kill anybody. So you actually take lethality out of the competition stuff. And I think there's a big argument out there, discussion. They still do the discussion about self-defense versus, competition training. And I think that if you're a guy that's a serious competitor and you're putting the time on the mat, off the mat, and you're weighing in at your 5% body fat and you're lifting a house in your weightlifting routines and you're out there and you're training on a consistent basis, you're probably going to be okay in a self-defense situation. You know what I'm saying? Because physically you're going to be a beast. And someone goes to attack you mano a mano or whatever, hands and stuff, you're probably going to come out super victorious in that. I think the other side of it is if you want to be a well-rounded person, train for competition because it puts you in awesome shape. Do those techniques. They're super effective. In my profession, though, we can't really just haul off and like gouge your eye out, right? We have to.
That's a foul.
Yeah. So unless there's a situation where that's acceptable, situational, totality of circumstance type thing, we use more control techniques. So going into a jiu-jitsu gym or a judo school or training all that stuff, that helps us out so much, man.
We were doing Wakigatami last night, and Matt Hall was there. He's going to come on the podcast, by the way. This dude's 6'10", 285.
It's huge.
And
it's fun to grapple.
I was talking about Wakigatami and getting in on it, and we were doing throws and just different things from it. I uploaded a video called Wakigatami Options on our gym YouTube you could check out. Yeah. It's got just little different things, like a Tai Otoshi variation, a rolling knee bar, ashigurami. A rolling ashigarami.
Rolling ashigarami.
But the standing submission, the going to the ground, the sacrifice with it. But I walked up beside him. And I was like, well, hey, it's like this. Because he's done some DT stuff because he works at the jail.
Yeah.
But I walked up and I grabbed him by the wrist of the tricep and I went, sir, I'm going to need you to come with me. And he just, we both just lost it. Because, dude, he's 6'10", 285 is literally, I'm 6 foot and 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like, doop. MacArthur's been coming in. I've been seeing him, and he's 6'6", and it's like, looking up at him, MacArthur looks up at this guy.
Yeah. And the funny part is MacArthur outweighs him, but
both those dudes are coming on the podcast, actually. MacArthur's coming on over spring break.
Dude, they're fun to grapple, man. They're a handful. That's a lot of business right there.
Yeah.
It's awesome,
Super heavy weights.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Well, man, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Do you want to give a plug for your website or your tactical training business you've been doing?
Sure, man.
Go ahead.
Why not?
I'll post it in the description on the video, too.
Maybe I'll be a sponsor one day. Right.
There you go. Yeah. I'm going to get some of those.
So, pretty simple, man. We got a training we do, concealed carry. We teach that new enhanced concealed carry class. I'm certified to do it right now. SRTSarkansas.com. So go there, check it out. There's a contact us form on there, and just fill it out if you're interested in training our classes. We do fundamentals of firearm class. We do our concealed carry, our enhanced concealed carry, and then we do custom classes, which is the ones I really enjoy, the custom classes, because you kind of get to go out and do some more advanced training, intermediate pistol, advanced pistol, rifle training with weapons manipulations and stuff like that. So that's super fun. I've always enjoyed those classes, and it's kind of like a one to how many buddies you got kind of deal. So.
Yeah, no, interesting. And obviously, concealed carry is a state-by-state basis. It varies from state. But if people want to, I'm sure, contact you for any, if we have out-of-state listeners or out-of-country listeners that wanted to do, like, consultation with you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they could contact you for that as well, the same means.
Yeah, just go to that website, SRTSarkansas, spelled out, .com. And then when you go there, just check out the website. There's a contact form. It's a simple site, I'll be honest with you, because it's kind of a landing page for me. And then I've got classes scheduled for up until the end of May right now for concealed carry. I've been doing about 2 to 3 months out with that. And
you doing a YouTube or anything?
Maybe after today, we might look at some YouTube stuff, but I haven't really put anything out there online or YouTube. I'm just more interested in training and doing the classes personally.
You start your own YouTube. I would definitely encourage you to do that. Or you're welcome to put a playlist on my YouTube, or our YouTube, rather. Because I've been uploading tons of those judo videos that were on the member site YouTube and getting them put in playlists and getting that ordered up. But that's something that's definitely, like, I want to do a self-defense playlist.
Yeah.
I've been looking at a lot of other bigger gyms that have, like, categories of playlists, and when Hickson releases that self-defense unit, I'm signed up for that, and it's going to be 70 techniques.
I'd like to look at that.
Yeah, I'll have digital access. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I would never give you the login. Okay. Well, yeah. So you got anything else, man? Thanks for coming on.
Man, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
would like to give you a few weeks off or whatever, but come back and have you just talk about your judo.
I love martial arts, dude. I like training.
Well, and you did come up and train with one of the most legit old school judo practitioners, the guy that trained at the Kodokan and everything. So
Mr. Carl Geis. He's passed on somewhere else, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, I would definitely like to sit down and have a conversation about that sometime. We can do that in our Sports Unraveled playlist and dump that over in there.
Sweet.
Where we also will talk about John Jones's PED issues.
Oh, what?
I shared an article last night about a doctor. We'll talk about it on the next MMA show.
You talking about Russia's PD issues too?
I'm definitely. So that will go on the Sports Unraveled playlist. It's not exclusively going to be martial arts.
They were in the Olympics after the PD thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we don't talk about that because they have better nuclear warheads than us. Okay.
They do, and they got a guy that's willing to push the button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sadly, probably we do too.
Wow.
It's not going to be a good time.
Sometimes you got to push buttons.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, signing off. Thanks for listening, everybody. And subscribe to our YouTube. You can check us out on Podbean. That's our audio host. And through Podbean, we get direct uploads onto the Apple podcast app. So you have that on your iPhone already. If you didn't delete it, if you did, re-download it so you can listen to the Life Unraveled podcast. Thanks, guys.